is usually translated joy, happiness, zest, rapture, and pleasurable interest. There are many translations possible for this word. Piti means mainly contentment about getting a desirable object. So we must differentiate piti from sukha, which is also translated happiness or bliss. Sukha refers to the actual experience of the object obtained. Piti is the contentment that you will get a desirable object. Piti, joy, belongs to the Sankhara Khanda, aggregates of mental formation. Sukha belongs to the Vedana Khanda, aggregates of feeling. So when you learn that, you will experience something desirable. You have piti. But when you actually experience it, you have sukha. So in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, Buddha mentioned piti Bojjhangha in this way. Santam wa ijatam piti Bojjhangham. Atime ijatam piti Bojjhangoti pajanati. Asantam wa ijatam piti Bojjhangham. Natime ijatam piti Bojjhangoti pajanati. If the joy enlightenment factors is present in him, he knows there is the joy enlightenment factors in me. If the joy enlightenment factors is not present in him, he knows there is no joy enlightenment factors in me. You cannot ignore piti. When piti arises in you, you need to know. But here, noting the piti, you need to capture the piti. It is not very easy to arouse the joy enlightenment factors. You understand when Bojjhangha start to arise in you. Bojjhangha, the enlightenment factors start to arise when you reach the stage of Udayabhaya Jnana, number 4 stage of insight knowledge, the knowledge of rise and fall. You start to see the reality. Then enlightenment factor starts. The enlightenment, the insight knowledge that arises when yogis see Namarupa arising and vanishing, anicca. Why do the enlightenment factors start at the Udayabhaya Jnana, number 4 stage? It is simply because The enlightenment factors are not something inferior. Enlightenment factors are not something trivial. Enlightenment factors are really superior phenomena. They are the parts of realizations of Four Noble Truths. Bojjhangha, you know, body and Inga. Body means someone who realized Four Noble Truths. Noble truth of suffering, noble truth of the origin of suffering, noble truth of the cessation of suffering, noble truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, Four Noble Truths. And Inga means parts. So Bojjhangha means parts of an enlightener or quality of an enlightener who has realized Four Noble Truths. Only when you have fulfilled these seven factors, sati, dhamma vijaya, viriya, piti, pasati, samadhi, and upekha, you can realize the Four Noble Truths. So realizations of Four Noble Truths starts at the Udiyabhya Jnana, knowledge of rise and fall. The realizations of Four Noble Truths at the lower stages is very vague for the yogis. For example, the first vipassana knowledge, Namarupa Brejita Jnana, you discern Nama and Rupa, you distinguish Nama and Rupa. Whatever objects you observe, you see two things, not only one. Notima is very clear and the objects you note is very clear. So you discern Nama and Rupa distinguishingly. That is, you know the noble truth of suffering. Now you observe rising and falling or sitting and touching. They are Rupa and Nama. They are truth of suffering, noble truth of suffering. But your discernment or your realization is still vague at the stage of Namarupa Brejita Jnana, when you discern the Nama and Rupa. But at the Udiyabhya Jnana, the knowledge of rise and fall, you see the physical phenomena, rising, falling, sitting, touching, you note it and you feel tension, stiffness, heat, warmth, pressure, motion, etc. These movement, pressure, newly arising and immediately vanishing. You can see clearly the beginning and the ending of the phenomena. And when you're not thinking or wondering, And you also see mental phenomena like thoughts, feeling, seeing, hearing, and so on. You see clearly newly arising and vanishing. You see the beginning and the ending of that phenomena. So in a sense, arising means jati, birth, and vanishing means marana, death. So you realize the suffering of jati, suffering of birth, jati dukkha, and you realize the marana dukkha, suffering of death. Within this process, you see jati and marana arising and disappearing. So when you realize the truth of suffering, you would leave no room for the attachment to this namarupa, because it's disappearing, disappearing, disappearing. So there is no attachment to that object. It is how yogi get rid of attachment, the cause of suffering, when you see the arising and disappearing of that process. Here, lack of attachment means lack of suffering. When attachment is eradicated, when suffering is eradicated, it is nirvana, just a momentary, ringa. Because at that moment, no attachment and no suffering. It is nirvana. The true cessation of suffering. To see this true process, you develop mega, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. When you see the nama rupa arising and vanishing, you realize they are impermanent nature, unsatisfactory nature, and insubstantial nature. Such realization signified samadhi maginga, right view. Right view is always accompanied by all the remaining factors. That is, you must have right understanding, right thinking, right aiming, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So remaining path factors accompany with samadhi maginga. So in this way, by developing mindfulness, you realize the true path to the cessation of suffering. In this way, yogis start to realize four noble truths at the stage of Udayabhya Jnana. That is why the enlightenment factors, Bojjhangha, are considered to start arising at the fourth stage of insight knowledge. And Bojjhangha is defined as the factors of an enlightener, the qualities of an enlightener who realize four noble truths. This definition is made in a figurative sense, because actually there is no person no man, no woman, no individual, but just mental state of realization in the ultimate sense. When conditions are met, these seven enlightenment factors will fully bloom, leading to the realizations of Four Noble Truths. So such realization accrues from every moment of your mindfulness. So Bojjhangha in the ultimate sense means seven factors of enlightenment or realizations of Four Noble Truths. So at the Uddiyabhya Jnana, there start to arise all the enlightenment factors. More obviously, Piti Sambhujanga, the joy enlightenment factors. So for ordinary person who have not reached this Uddiyabhya Jnana stage yet, it would quite difficult to experience that joy enlightenment factors. So according to the Pali text, we have to explain the joy factors in detail so that you can understand Sati Sambhujanga comprehensively. Now you practice diligently, continuously. And when you reach the Uddiyabhya Jnana, you become mindful of meditative objects. You become mindful of the Namarupa effortlessly because you have very good momentum. In the beginning, you have to practice very hard. You have to work hard to be mindful. In the beginning, you keep your mind at the domain, the primary objects, the air elements. That is very obvious. You note rising, falling, rising, falling. It is very recommended because it's moving. But after a few minutes, the mind's jumping. The mind often goes away and is jumping all the time. So yogis have to take some time to remember to note the primary objects of rising and falling. Most of the time, some people cannot note them concurrently, and they also fail to be mindful when they bending, when they stretching their limbs. So yogi reported missing object, many missing objects. And some may be even more forgetful to note seeing, hearing, because they are also to be noted. When you practice walking and sitting, sometimes you see, sometimes you hear. You cannot capture everything in the beginning. You forget to note. So beginner yogis fail to note many objects, many missing objects. But you not discourage, you encourage yourself. Other yogis practice diligently. Why not I also do? And after your diligent practice, yogi reached the stage of Udayabaya Jnana. And at that point, you have very good momentum of noting. And at that moment, the meditative objects manifest themselves so obviously as if they were competing for your attention. Rising and falling is very obvious. You are noting agreeably, concurrently, hit the object as if they were saying, note me fast. And hearing arises, and hearing the object say to you, note me fast. So every objects are very concurrent with the noting mind, and noting mind is very agreeable with the objects manifesting. So yogi become aware of them easily without making much effort. In this way, objects manifest themselves, and awareness of them comes by itself also. When you hit the objects concurrently, there arises concentration. When sati and samadhi doing very well, there will come piti, there will come joy and enlightenment factors. At this stage, there are many conditions that contribute to the joy and enlightenment factors. So yogis start to see, yogis start to experience the luminous state. They see lights, etc. In the beginning of the practice, yogis always have hard time developing mindfulness, but now yogi find it remarkably easy to be mindful and to be aware of them. Most significantly, yogi feel luminous. Yogi can see light more or less. However, much of your dismay, there are some people who will discourage you. Some people negative, they will say that luminous experience is just your imagination. So they will say, they say in this way, they say that luminous experience is just imagination because they never practice vipassana up to this Udayabaya Jnana stage. So experiencing the luminous state is not imagination at all. The state occurs by itself. If it were an imagination, They can try to imagine such luminous state and see whether they would get the same experience as a yogi who experienced this. No way, it is not what they can imagine. Only when real practitioners reach this stage, they can get this experience. Ordinary people cannot will it to arise. Let there be luminous states. They cannot will. Even to a diligent yogi with previous experience, this luminous state occurs only when conditions are met. When there is no condition for that luminous state, that means when concentration and mindfulness are not very continuous, luminous state will not occur. So it is impossible to realize that luminous state without practice. And what is the characteristics of piti? Sampiya yana lakkhana. The characteristics of piti, joy, is gratification, satisfaction, or contentment. For instance, little kids become gratified with something or pocket money given by their parents or relatives. But when they become adults, they can only be satisfied with much bigger amount. Anyhow, in daily life, when people obtain what they want, they become satisfied. That satisfaction is piti, associated with sensual desire. There is unwholesome desire, there is lobha. So such sensual joy is not the joy known as Bojjhangha factors, enlightenment factors. There were cases in which worldly kinds of joy went so crazy that some people even die of that. Some people bet great amount of money on a racing horse, etc. When the horse they bet on won, they became so joyful that they even die of the joy. So the point is that sensual joy can drive people crazy. Indeed, sensual joy is unwholesome, but it is also piti. There are also wholesome kinds of joy in our mundane life. You may feel joyful and gratified with wholesome deeds you have done. Such gratification may be related to the triple gem or wholesome deeds, charity, your morality and meditation, etc. you have ever done. So these kinds of gratifications or happiness may arise while listening to the Dhamma talk. That means you realize the Dhamma and you listening to the recitations of the Pali discourses like Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta or other sutta, Vanapa Gombe Yatta Phositake, Gimana Masi Patamasamengime, Tatupama Dhammavara Adisi, Nibbana Gami Paramahitaya, Idambi Bodherana Paranitam, Edina Sijena Suvati Hodu. So some Pali is stanza, very soothing, and if you really hear the voice of the Buddha, so joyful, you may feel happy when you hear the Buddha's authentic Pali passages. So listening to these Pali passages, you may feel happy and gratified. There arise wholesome kinds of joy or gratification. Such gratification is also called piti. And the functions of joy is to infuse or to pervade. The joy or gratification infuse or pervades the whole body, making you feel warm and comfortable. The piti prevails in you at the stage of Udayabhyanyana, the knowledge of rise and fall. You may feel piti pervading your whole body in a very unique way. Sometimes from the head down to the lower parts of the body, other times from the lower parts to the head of your body. So you may feel very pleasant and comfortable in a very unique way. You may not be able to describe your piti. It is piti born healthy physical phenomena that pervade the whole body, but not piti itself. It is a certain kinds of mental phenomena that arises only in your heart base. So when piti arises, Chittaja Rupa, piti born healthy physical phenomena, these rupa are very refreshing microorganism. So that make you, your body, your rupa healthy. And because of this, you recover from your sickness. So piti arises the moment you are mindful of presently arising phenomena concurrently. When you mindful of present phenomena concurrently, you hit in thoroughly, and then you realize the true nature of nature, dukkha, anatta, etc. And then piti arises. So piti is said to arise from every phenomenon you observe according to the Dhammavada verse. In the Dhammavada, it mentions Yato Samasati Kandana Udiyabhyam Labate Piti Pamojam Amatantan Vijanatam. From whatever angle yogi sees the aggregates arising and vanishing, from that angle yogi attains joy and delight. That is the deathless for the yogis. So Dhammavada says, from whatever angle you see the aggregates arising and vanishing, from that angle yogi attain joy and delight. That is the nirvana. That is the nirvana for the yogis. Because you realize the true nature of the phenomena, true nature of the aggregates. So when you reach the Uddiyabhaya Jnana, piti arises from whatever you observe. Primary objects you observe rising, you start to comprehend the beginning of the rising, the middle of the rising, and the end of the rising. Arising gone, noting also gone. Then you can find the piti arising from noting the rising. Piti arises when you note the rising of the Brahman, because you see the arising and vanishing process of the rising phenomena. And you note the falling, you start to see the beginning of the falling, the middle of the falling, at the end of the falling, and piti arises. So in this way, piti arises from whatever objects you observe. Also when you walking, lifting the food, moving forward and dropping it, piti arises because they are arising and vanishing, you see clearly. You know the bending, stretching of the limbs, piti arises. Because the beginning and the end of this process are very clear to you, and this is reality, and piti arises. So naturally, the piti and piti generated physical phenomena pervade your whole body. As a result, yogi will experience the surging flush of pleasure with every moment of your mindfulness. Every moment of your mindfulness, you experience piti, the surging flush of pleasure. Of course, only yogis who have ever experienced piti can realize it, but not ordinary people. People can. Dhamma knowledge is not very easy to understand without our own experience, let alone such unique Dhamma experience. Even mundane things cannot be realized without our own experience. For example, nobody can understand what the cake tastes like unless he has ever tried it. Only those people who have ever tried it can understand the taste. So in the same way, only those yogi who have ever experienced the piti can understand what piti is really is. So in the Pali scripture, there are many things explained in praise of piti, joy. So people with uh, is theoretical knowledge have learned a lot about the piti, but when there is a question, you have ever experienced piti? Unless they practice vipassana up to this udyabhya jnana, what they talk about is not from their own experience. Even if he practices vipassana, he may not reach this udyabhya jnana unless he practice correctly and carefully. So only when yogi develop vipassana, insight knowledge up to this udyabhya jnana, he can experience that piti, the joy enlightenment factors, which is supportive condition for attainment of nibbana, the deathless. That is why joy and delight, piti pamojja, are here figuratively described as the deathless amata for the yogis. Amata, deathless means nibbana. That means one who see mind and matter arising and vanishing. So in order to reach this stage, we have to work hard, putting strenuous effort in this intensive retreat. We are very lucky to come to this retreat. So when yogi reach this stage, yogi feel comfortable and relaxed because of joy and delight, piti pamojja. As a result, yogi won't find it hard to continue the intensive practice for further attainments. Otherwise, yogi would feel very reluctant to make further effort. It may be compared to someone who climbs up a mountain. Naturally, he will find it very hard to climb up a mountain when the sun is hot and humid, and while the mountain itself is steep and high. So it is very hard to climb up that mountain. And then if you get a chance to take a rest in a camp somewhere on the way up, you would feel inspired to proceed with your journey. In the same way, this stage of insight knowledge, accompanied by joy and delight, is like a camp for yogi to rest on your way up to the mountain top. A yogi at this stage does not even need any encouragement from the teacher. So meditation teacher have to encourage yogi, keep noting, keep noting. But when the yogi reach this stage, yogi does not need any encouragement from the teacher, because yogi becomes very enthusiastic to make further effort in the practice of meditation, because yogi is now very comfortable and relaxed at this camp of Udiyabhyanyana. So we want to, all yogi want to have that perseverance until yogi reach this stage. So for the developing of piti, Yonisamanasikara is needed. Yonisamanasikara means I will make a note. I will observe continuously. I will observe presently arising objects concurrently. That is Yonisamanasikara. If you have that Yonisamanasikara, piti will arise because you are continuously in noting the presently arising object. And there are 5 kinds of piti: Kotaka piti, Kanika piti, Aukandika piti, Ubeka piti, and Parana piti. So we will continue tomorrow. We have to stop our discourse for today. May all yogis develop the 7 factors of enlightenment: piti, sati, dhamma vijaya, viriya, piti, pasati, samadhi, and upeka sambojjhanga. May you practice vipassana meditation continuously and meticulously. By practicing vipassana meditation continuously and meticulously, may all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future. Ekayano ayam bhikkhave mega sadanam visuddhiyam Sogabari Devanam Samadekamayam Dokha Domanasanam Attingamayam Nyayasa Adigamayam Nibbanasa Sajikiriyayam Yadidam Chadaram Sadivadanam Kadame Chadaram Ida Bhikkhave Bhikkhu Kaye Kayanubasi Viharati Adabi Sambajanam Satima Vinayam Loke Abhija Domanasam Vedanasu Vedananubasi Viharati Adabi Sambajanam Saddhima Vinayam Loke Avijjadomanasam Chaita Chaitanubasi Viharati Adapi Sambajanam Saddhima Vinayam Loke Abhijadomanasam Dhammesu Dhammanubasi Viharati Adapi Sambajanam Saddhima Vinayam Loke Abhijadomanasam. English translation. This is the only way, bhikkhus, for the purifications of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for reaching the noble path, for the realizations of nirvana, namely the four foundations of mindfulness. What are the four? Here in this teaching, bhikkhus thus contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending the mindful, removing desire and discontent in the world. Thus contemplating the feelings, ardent, clearly comprehending the mindful, removing desire and discontent in the world. Bhikkhus thus contemplating the consciousness in the consciousness, ardent, clearly comprehending and mindful, desire and discontent in the world. Bhikkhus thus contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhammas, ardent, clearly comprehending and mindful, removing desire and discontent in the world. Honoring and sharing merits. Imayam Dhammanu Dhamma Badi Badiyam Bodham Bujemi Imayam Dhammanu Dhamma Badi Badiyam Dhammam Bujemi Imayam Dhammanu Dhamma Vadi Vadiyam Sangham Bujemi Imayam Dhammanu Dhamma Vadi Vadiyam Mata Vidaram Ujemi Imayam Dhammanu Dhamma Vadi Vadiyam Achariyem Ujemi Adaimayam Vadi Jara Maranama Parimojay Sami Idame Bojjhang Asawakayawaham Odu Idame Silam Megaphalanyanasa Pachayadu Imana Bojjhangam Savasadanam Demam Sabe Sadam Sukhita Hondu Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu